So welcome back. We have had some time to pause and take some questions from everybody in our live audience. So I want to put these questions to you now, Tim.
Yeah.
So one of our questions that we had was, how do we inspect our own glasses to evaluate my lens or my worldview?
Yeah, that's a really important question, isn't it? Because if I'm saying, we can compare worldviews, our worldviews change, it's really important we examine them. But if we're sort of wearing them all the time, it's kind of how you get your glasses off, right? I think that's what the question is getting at. And so my first thoughts on this is that a crucial factor of that is becoming reflective.
Okay.
Like, why do I think this to be the case? Why is that my attitude to this? Why has this come up? So we need to become a little bit self-reflective. Like I say, most of us perhaps don't even, realizing that we have a worldview that is shaping the way we see the world is already a kind of new thought for us.
Yeah.
So starting there and going further and saying, okay, how am I seeing the world? And there are some questions that all worldviews will answer. Say things like, where have I come from? What's the purpose of my life? What's kind of the sort of future that I hope for? Like, we will all have a version of that we
Those
think.
big questions that we think.
If we can become reflective enough, we will be able to draw some of that out. But the second crucial way is dialoguing with other people. So they say that, you can't see your own blind spot, someone else. So I can probably see your worldview maybe clearer than I can see my own.
Okay.
Particularly if I'm looking out for it. So it partly in conversation, but I think as we read, say it's as I've read books, that's helped me realise what my worldview is.
Like exposed your worldview to you as you've read.
And challenge when it's challenged. Say when someone says, "Oh, Tim, you say that you believe this, but that's not really how you behave." And you're like, "Oh." And those things make you think a little bit more about your worldview. So I think a combination of becoming more reflective, but also engaging with what's out there is the two main things. But obviously there's many actual ways that could happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we had another question, and that was, you said that the Christian view is coming into line with the truth that is out there. But isn't it the case that I can only do that using reason? So this person is saying, like, my reason.
Yeah.
And if so, how is that different to self-determined reality?
Yeah, okay. So I think the thrust of this question is that it'd be helpful to get a slide up, actually. I can do that, can't I? Let's get our T worldview. Here we go. So if we get this slide up to maybe help us answer that question, I think what this question is asking is it's saying, I've emphasised that on the right-hand side, you only have your reason to kind of construct some sort of truth.
Yeah.
Whereas on the left-hand side, there's a truth that's beyond us. And the question is, yeah, that's all very well, but I still only grasp that truth with my mind.
Yeah.
So in the end, I'm still determined by what's going on in my head. And that's really helpful question for clarifying, really, that absolutely, like, none of us can escape our own subjectivity. So whatever might be out there, it's I that's perceiving it. And that means that even if there is objective truth, I will never have fully objective knowledge of that truth. I will only have my subjective knowledge.
It's always going to come through my mind. And okay.
I'm always going to perceive it. I'm always going to interpret it. Say, I'll never perfectly understand you, Liz. I'll only ever interpret what you say.
Yeah.
And that would always be to some extent imperfect. The main difference, though, is whether we believe there is a truth that is out there to grasp or not.
Yeah.
So in this left-hand worldview, we are affirming there is a truth out there for me to grasp, and I can grasp it, but not perfectly. Because it just comes through my mind, because there's a sort of a subjectivity, I'll never have a perfect access to the truth. But I can have a true access to the truth. And we'll probably talk about that more when we talk about a Christian worldview. Whereas in the right-hand side, we're saying there is no truth out there for me to grasp.
We've got to make it.
That's the key difference. So for both kind of sides, our existence is by definition subjective in the sense that it's me that exists and perceives. The difference is, on the left-hand side, there is a truth for me to grasp, even if that's imperfect and perceived through my lenses. But on the right-hand side, there is no truth out there. It's just the truth as we construct it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the core difference I was trying to get across anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
This sort of stuff is going to really play out when we start to explore Christian worldview. We're going to talk a bit about how we think of the truth and how we think of coming to know the truth and the ways that we do that.
Great. And then another question that we had was, did these early thinkers think about how far this could go? And where does all of this thinking lead us? Where does it go to in the end?
Yeah. So I'll take the first part of that question really, because I think, we've tried to tell the story of where it takes us, the second half, but it's very easy to do a presentation like this and to give the impression that, Kant said this, what a doofus, he didn't realise ... But that's that would be extremely unfair to give that impression.
Yep.
Like, these guys were geniuses, and none of us perceives the full implications of our thoughts and our work and our belief. None of us fully sees where that's going to go in the end. So I think the answer to the question is no, they didn't see the full consequence of this. That Nietzsche started to. That's why he's important. But that's not knocking them.
Yeah.
That's just how humans work and how the progress of our worldview works. That one generation builds on another generation. And it's so, remember the example about the eugenics?
Yep.
It's probably only after things like the Holocaust that people realised,
we stopped and thought,
that's where eugenics can take us.
Okay.
And you revise that, but we all do that. So
we're in that time then.
Yeah, so we're in that time now. We can think what we think, and but we will not know the full consequences of that.
Okay.
You need a God's eye view to know the full consequences of these sort of things.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
That's great. Thank you for answering those questions for us. So thank you for your questions, guys. And we did actually have a few more questions that we are going to leave until later on in Unraveling, because they fit a little bit better into some of the content that we're doing later on. But if you have questions that you really want to ask, then please get involved. We're going to have live discussion groups. We're going to have more videos, and you can get involved on our website as well at www.amblecotecc.org.uk/unraveling. So get involved and join the discussion.